Well, my name is Al, and you're with People Advocating Cannabis Education. PACE is about people who promote the benefits of cannabis, and we do that through educational documentaries as well as public education. Today we are at the Grindhouse Cafe here in Campbellford, and I'd like to introduce to you an advocate that's going to talk to us about the history of cannabis. I'd like to introduce you to Ted Smith. How are you, Ted?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here today. I'm sure we're going to really enjoy this. We're always looking for a little bit of history in cannabis. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, Ted, as far as, maybe some of your education, whether you got any hobbies, what you do for a living, so on and so forth? Just a bit of intro.
Sure. Well, my roots are actually there in Ontario. I'm now in Victoria, British Columbia, but I'm a second-generation dairy farmer on both sides near the Stratford area. And then I moved to town when I was, Cambridge, Ontario, that is, when I was 10, and grew up there. And then went to Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo. I was actually going to become a chartered accountant, so I started taking economics and math when I started there.
Oh.
And yeah, so I'm quite happy to have that background, but I guess about halfway through I ran into philosophy and woke up, you could say, and started writing books and graduated, in fact, with the philosophy degree, and decided that I should move to, actually I was going to go to Japan and teach English. I thought with a philosophy degree there wasn't much I could do, and I figured I would be, writing and thinking and teaching it, in Japan, until about this age, now 42 or 43. And then I thought I'd come back to Canada with my books and money to publish them. But then I ran into the clear cuts in the Clayoquot Sound when I left Ontario and came to British Columbia, kind of on my journey. And the clear cut in the mountains, it looked like they took a paint scraper to the mountainside. They just sheared the living material off of it. It was horrible.
Just like a pipeline would do.
Yeah, and, way worse. Yeah, it was like a nuclear bomb had gone off in the mountains and just really devastated the landscape. And so, it struck me that those trees would be cut down to print my books. And then I went to a hempology meeting in Vancouver and realized that my family could be growing this plant that would be printing the paper my books would be printed on, and so much more. And so that was, I guess, 18 years ago, I went to my first hempology meeting in Vancouver, soon after arriving in BC. And it struck me that I should become an advocate for the plant, for my family, the farmers who had this, resource taken from them, and for the environment and the planet. And so I decided to move to Victoria, I guess 17 years ago this month, to start teaching and writing and publish the history of cannabis, which is something I've finally done.
Correct. Wow, you've had a bit of a journey then, in what you started out into what you ended up with.
Oh, yeah, it's been epic.
Yeah. You're involved in the cannabis community in several ways. This includes the Canada Cannabis Buyers Club, right? You're also involved with, is it the only cannabis newspaper that's basically national?
I believe that the Cannabis Digest is, the only national newspaper or even Canadian-focused publication. Stuff Magazine and even Treating Yourself comes out of Toronto there, but it's more international flavor, whereas our newspaper, the Cannabis Digest, is really focused on the politics and law. It was really a newsletter for the Cannabis Buyers Club that we've turned into a national paper. In particular, when cannabis culture stopped printing, there was this void of information that we wanted to fill.
Correct. Okay, I want to sort of touch on each one of the things that you're involved with, and that includes the Cannabis Buyers Club, which we mentioned, and the Digest now. And you've also written a book, Hempology 101. I've got some questions on that as well. So let's start with the Cannabis Buyers Club. Can you tell us a little bit of history about about the Buyers Club and, like, basically what got it started and that?
Sure. Well, when I moved to Victoria 17 years ago, I was homeless. I lived in a van at the time, and I just started having meetings around Victoria at the University of Victoria. And then the first issue that really came up was the medical use of cannabis. This was back in 1995, and people were dying after being contracted with AIDS very quickly. It was a death sentence for them. And, the awareness of the medicinal uses were becoming apparent. Dennis Braun had started up the Cannabis Buyers Club in San Francisco, and so I knew a club existed, although it was actually impossible for me to find out their mandate. So I looked at case law, like the Morgenthaler decision and the Charter of Rights, and decided that we would help people that had a doctor's diagnosis of a permanent physical disability or disease. Essentially protecting people's right to choose their, medical treatment if they had, chronic pain or, kind of permanent a disability like that.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so I met a lady who made cookies and brownies and sauves and massage oils, and she worked in the AIDS community. And so I started meeting people who were not just smoking pot to stay alive, but eating it. And smoking was enough to keep them alive, but as they started eating it, their health would actually turn around and improve. Right. And so, that was, so I got a pager and a pamphlet, and out of my van, I just started doing deliveries.
So basically you started this out of the back of your van.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody really. I was from Ontario. I was like the biggest loudmouth heat score in Victoria. All the people in the industry and the movement weren't really happy with me kind of stirring it up like I was, but things needed to happen. People needed medicine, so I stuck my head out and started providing it.
So you've gone from a van, and now you're in a building and the whole bit.
Yeah, it wasn't a straight line though.
No.
We went. Well, I guess it was because the building, the apartment I ran out of was on the same street, on Johnson Street. But I went from the van to an apartment, and we're out of there for about 5 years. Actually, the police told me to get a store when they were raiding a friend of mine in the apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
And so they told me to get the store 11 and a half years ago. And then about a year later, we had our first police raid at the store. And then we ended up actually having 4 police raids between 2002 and 2003.
Yeah.
And we opened up either right after the police left or as soon as we got out of jail. Or we've never gone a single day without selling medicine. It might have took till the end of the day, but we've provided medicine every day since we've gotten that store.
So you're back up and operating right away again.
Yeah, although it put us like $80,000 in debt. It almost drove me bankrupt. But we beat every single charge that was laid against us. And then almost 3 years ago, our bakery got raided.
Yes.
And my friend Owen Smith was charged with trafficking in THC for making cookies and skin products. And this past spring, we convinced the judge in Victoria that the MMAR were unconstitutional because they didn't allow patients to make extracts out of their illegal cannabis.
Correct. And
well, I was going to say, we still have a jury trial to go ahead with that. But, that's proceeding.
I have a bit of a grin on my face because the police officer just walked in and out of the cafe. This is why I have the camera turned with the wall behind me, because due to legal reasons, people need to know that they're being videotaped if they come in here. So I turn it so that you can't see people coming and going. And who knows, who knows what that police officer would have said. So, so what kind of services, what all kind of services does the Compassion Club offer to its members?
Well, we have 30 food and skin products now. We've really gone out of our way to provide low-cost alternatives to smoking cannabis, because eating cannabis is very beneficial for people that are dealing with severe health problems. It almost doesn't matter what you're dealing with. If you're in a bad state, you should be eating cannabis unless you're allergic to it.
Correct.
So we've we've prolonged a lot of people's lives and helped them out a lot by using edibles and topicals, not as much. They haven't turned on to that. But when a member comes, or when someone comes in who already smokes pot for their pain, we tell them that if they use our edibles, they will save money, smoke less, feel better, and use less prescription drugs.
Yes,
those
yes.
are the 4 goals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we provide a lot of services for free. Obviously, we sell pot and the products, but we have the medical regulation forms there. So when people come and join, we actually, it's about a 45-minute intake because we give a really good explanation of our services and give them the forms and go through our products and make sure that they know what the science is behind it and stuff.
Right. So like an orientation period.
Yeah, so we provide a lot of education. Certainly the newspaper is part of it. And we're always there for free consulting. My friend Gail, my girlfriend, is a healthcare consultant as well. She's like our little witch doctor, so she knows a lot about alternative medicines and therapies and herbs and foods that you could use to heal or, at least deal with your problems. We do a lot of consulting. We also have a vapor lounge and a smoking room for people.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's really
not all of them offer that.
No, there's more in Vancouver starting up with it, but no, majority don't. But yeah, we've since the very beginning, it's been important for me to have a space for people to smoke pot. And for about 10 years, it was in a little closet. Actually, it wasn't very good, but yeah, we made some changes last year. And yeah, it's sort of like the size of a bedroom, but it's got a nice floor and nice art. And it's probably full right now as we speak, actually.
Yeah. Now, talking about food and that, I noticed that at your website that you have a recipe page there where you can go in. Now, we think about recipes. Is it only like baked goods, or does it offer other kinds of recipes?
Well, we basically provide the recipes that we sell at the club. Anything that we make is made with, basically butter, olive oils, and vegetable oils. We don't make any products or sell any products that have got alcohol or ethanol or any kind of solvent. We believe that in the whole plant medicine. So the more of this plant you can get into you, the better. Like cooking it concentrate is actually you're kind of cooking out a whole bunch of good stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing that isn't medicine in this plant is the fiber. So, really all you should be trying to take out is the fiber. And even that, a little bit of it's good for you, right?
Right.
It's just the amount of fiber that's in the plant is more than you need. And I know that from experience. But it's something that, you want to make extractions to a point, But, yeah, so we've got, how to decarboxylize it and infuse it in butters. And activate all the chemicals. Like there's a little video and everything. Because we want people to be able to look after themselves, and this plant can do that for people. And so we want drug companies or other people, or other clubs to kind of keep their secrets to themselves. And unfortunately, most cannabis cookbooks don't talk about decarboxylizing. They don't seem to know about activating the THC. They also don't mention lecithin. Lecithin's soy lecithin often. It's a food additive.
I noticed that was on your website.
Yeah, it not only helps with the absorption of the cannabinoids, so it'll hit you stronger, but lecithin's really good for you in general. It's really good for your nervous systems. You have multiple sclerosis or other sort of conditions where your nerves have been affected. It's actually really good at helping that system stay functioning. So everybody should have a little bit of lecithin in their diet generally anyway. And so, yeah, we try to teach people everything that we know, and because we're so open and helpful and encourage other people to experiment, we get a lot of feedback from other people who, kind of tweak our experiments or add to them, and so that's what's helped us improve our recipes.
Correct.
And
yeah.
It's kind of funny as opposed to, a group that keeps its secrets to itself and nobody else shares secrets. Our more open attitude has helped improve not only our recipes, but everybody else's.
Okay, Ted, gotta take a commercial break. Be right back. Okay, we're back after a quick little break there. And that's those YouTube rules, you know. Um, Now, you also have club events from what I saw on the website as well.
Oh, that was the commercial break?
Yeah, commercial's over, man. It's only a quick on-off of the pause button for recording because of the YouTube only allows me to put 15 minutes up at a time. So if
Yeah,
I have a 20-minute video, it's too long, right? So, yeah, no problem. If you want to go ahead and roll and light up while we're talking, we don't have any problem with that. Um, Now, as far as events, as I mentioned, what kind of events do you guys do?
Well, the Buyers Club doesn't do many. When we talk about events, we switch over to Hempology 101.
Right.
We've had great sort of relationship where Hempology's done, a lot of advocacy and such, but
Okay.
the Buyers Club hasn't really
Doesn't do that
done
end of it.
a lot of events. Although maybe just to conclude on the Buyers Club, before getting to that, this summer, I guess in May after we changed the federal law, we had the Canada Revenue Agency come investigate.
Correct. Yes, I've got that. Yes, actually, that's my next question. So let's just discuss about that then. What is happening there with actually the people here may not know what we're talking about here with the Cannabis Buyers Club, because of from my understanding, it's because of the Owen Smith trial. Is that how you got involved in this tax question with the government and the Canadian Revenue Agency?
Yeah, it really comes from my testimony in court where I admitted that we weren't collecting HST or employee deductions. That we were an unincorporated co-op with no legal entity behind it. And so the judge put that in his decision. It was an aggravating factor, I think, to him. It made us more criminal. And so that's one of the reasons I think he decided that the jury trial next year would still go ahead. And so the police actually took the court decision to the CRA to start getting tax money out of you. So in a way, it's truly a step towards legitimacy here because the police aren't coming to raid us. In fact, now when they arrest me or my friends, we're starting to change federal law. I'm just getting better at this. And so arresting me isn't serving any purpose. But, I may as well pay my taxes like every other business. And so it's been interesting. It's been, exciting, honestly, since they've come because we've been waiting for this for a long time. The apartment that I operated out of for years is actually across the street from the Revenue Canada office in Victoria. So, the way I've been looking forward to being, kind of licensed and regulated, and even though we don't get a license out of this, it's sort of awkward.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've decided that this is the perfect occasion to form a nonprofit society, and I'm going to be selling the business, the club, to this new nonprofit society. We decided actually I'm going to sell it for $4,200. At first, it reported that's going to sell it for $420. Well, that isn't really a fair estimate of the market value of the equipment that I'm selling the club.
Yeah.
We've actually had to buy a new computer and a new printer because we're making membership cards as well. And we're changing back to our original name, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club.
Yeah.
We call ourselves the Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada. Actually, it was a progression because I started sponsoring a couple of clubs. So it actually was Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, then Vancouver Island Cannabis Buyers Club, then Vancouver Island Compassion Club, and then Cannabis Buyers Club of Canada when we got the Halifax branch. Now all those other affiliates are done, and it's just our store.
Just your own now.
People contact us all the time thinking we deliver across Canada, and we don't. So it's kind of practical to just switch it back to the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. but it also helps signal the change, that there is a new society that's taken the reins from me. This Tuesday coming up, we're actually having our first board meeting, and then we'll be officially incorporating. I finally have the perfect 5 board members to take it over from me. And the president, my friend Dieter, is going to be, is also the executive director, so it's really kind of a clear transfer of power. Yeah. And I'm really excited because people accuse me of profiteering from medical marijuana, and I've just taken enough to live. I really haven't been, living high on the hog. I have no jewelry. Most expensive thing I own is my gold tooth. I really haven't accumulated much at all here, and people have accused me of that for years.
Right.
And so, I'm going to be able to separate myself financially from the club and put our financial statements online so that everybody can see where every penny is going.
Yeah.
There won't be all these accusations being made, and we'll be able to, manage our accounts, and that transparency will do us a great deal of good.
Yeah, it will.
And I'll be making a living selling my textbook with hempology and publishing my paper and kind of living legally for a while.
Yeah. Now what was the ruling with the CRA? How much money do they want out of you?
So far the bill's $147,000.
$147,000.
Yeah, that's unpaid HST for the first 6 months.
And that's just for 6 months.
Yeah, that doesn't include the employee deductions. Just met with the lady the other day. They're also going to nail me for quite a bit in unemployment, or kind of CDP, EI, and income tax deductions. So bill's going to be over $200,000.
Yeah, I was going to say you're not done with that bill yet. Then now, from my understanding, you're going to take that on yourself, and it's not going to be directed towards the Buyers Club?
Yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to basically take the hit myself. I'm likely going to end up declaring bankruptcy in the end, because that's just a ridiculous amount of money to owe. Yeah. But the members of the club are now already paying an extra 12% that they weren't a few months ago with HST. And to claw back the back taxes of hundreds of thousands of dollars from people that are sick and disabled, I just can't do that. I don't have the heart to do that. Like, declaring bankruptcy to me isn't that big of a deal. I can't get a credit card anyway, and it won't really affect the way that I live. And I'll just be living off donations and sales of my book and whatever else I can hustle up along the way.
Now, you mentioned earlier about, does this case sort of legitimize what what the club is doing and stuff, which leads me to, we have laws in this country where, you're not allowed to have the proceeds of crime. Now, if cannabis is legal and they're making you collect or pay HST to the government, are they not profiting off of the benefits of what they call a crime, because they're going to take this money from you? Does that not make you legal?
Ironically, Revenue Canada will accept and take proceeds of crime. It's totally legal for them to do that. You could put on your tax forms that you're an assassin, that you made $100,000 last year as an assassin, and the fact that you kill people won't matter. Like, they might look into your clients to see how they could afford to pay you that $100,000, but they don't care if it's from murder, theft, illegal drug sales. That's Revenue Canada. Ironically, it doesn't matter. The funny part is, though, that it does matter to banking institutions. So we can't get a bank account for hempology. I can't even get a checking account for myself. So we don't know how we're even going to pay Revenue Canada. I'm going to have to get together with them again this week and figure that out, because I'm going to have this big sack of money here at the end of this quarter from the HST I've collected. Yeah. I'll be like $40,000, $50,000, and I'll have no legal way to pay them. It's going to be pretty funny.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't have a bank account, you can't write a check, they take cash.
Yeah. So it was funny because the officers that were investigating me all summer they just kept saying that's not their problem, that's collections problem. And I just had my first meeting with collections, and they didn't know what the hell they were giving me the names of like small credit unions that, you know, in these other municipalities that I might be able to come to. And I'm sure Revenue Canada knows all that, the credit unions that accept cash or money orders. Like.
Okay, before we switch over to Cannabis Digest, and ask anybody got any questions about his court case or about the Buyers Club or anything like that? Yeah, was that John here is asking about the legalization and where Mark Emery paid his taxes and the government accepted his money. I guess they're willing to take your money as well and not worry about the proceeds of crime. Like you say, it's legal for them.
Yeah. In a way, it's similar to Mark Emery, where, you know, you could say that we're paying for our prosecution and defense because we're paying for, you know, our taxes, but we can still be prosecuted. And so, although you know, Mark wasn't prosecuted, you know, Canadian law, he wasn't paying American government taxes to the Canadian government. But you know, it's going to change things. It doesn't give us the license that we really need, but it is a step towards that, and really incorporating it as a nonprofit as well kind of helps towards that. Because part of what the judge commented last year was that he couldn't give me or Owen an exemption to sell medical marijuana last year, to sell cookies, because Owen's not the organization. There's no actual organization to give an exemption to. So we would like to get an exemption 56 to sell, you know, cannabis products to sick people. And now getting a nonprofit status and paying taxes and everything is really going to make it harder for them to say no to us.
Exactly. So it'd be like a blanket exception for the club. Okay, we got to pause for the YouTube cause here, and I'll be right back in a second. We're back. Okay, we'll switch gears over to Cannabis Digest. I just happen to have a copy of it here with me. As far as Cannabis Digest, can we touch a little bit on? I guess maybe we might have earlier. A little bit of its history. What got you started on it? How long it's been around and stuff like that?
Okay, well, I think it's been around for 8 years. This is Gail. She actually deserves a lot of credit for it.
Hi, Gail.
How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Good. Good.
I guess after we got raided, you know, back in 2002, 2003, Gail came and joined the club. And one of the first things she did was, you know, encourage us to get a newsletter going so we could inform the members what was happening, because the membership was growing and it needed explanation. So the first newspaper was actually like a big photocopy folded in half. It was like 4 or like 2 pages front and back kind of folded together, you know, like 4 pages. It was pretty small. Pretty grassroots,
and it just grown from 4 pages, and I don't know how many pages are in this one.
This one's 24. We had a few issues there that were 28 pages, and actually the next issue that's coming out in October here is going to be back to 28 pages. We've got more advertisers come in, so we could use a few more to help pay for itself.
Correct.
Part of the transition is with the newspaper is kind of I'm going to have to start paying for itself with hempology. That's one of my other things happening.
Right.
Yeah, we're starting to get more advertisers. People are very happy. You know, that it's been a consistent publication, and I think a lot of advertisers really like to see that it's consistent and well distributed, and we've done a pretty good job at that.
Yes. So what kind of articles will you find in Cannabis Digest?
Well, there's your articles.
I know that. Besides mine.
Well, in a way, Al, you really exemplify what we're trying to do, because we're trying to keep patients informed about what's happening with medical marijuana, the licenses and dispensaries, and did a great story on the vapor lounges in the Toronto region a while ago. So we want to keep people informed about what's happening in the movement in the industry, what's new, what's happening in law, you know, and so that's the primary focus. Certainly, there's politics as well. So, you know, our current issue, you have an article there about the Sensible BC campaign that's happening here in BC about trying to decriminalize pot.
Now, I saw on the mailing list that it's been that Sensible BC campaign has been accepted or something, and it may be part of a referendum that you're going to hold there in BC. Yeah,
it's looking like it's going to be legally on the a ballot if they get enough signatures here. So I guess a week tomorrow on Monday, I think 24th or something. There's a meeting in Victoria, and it's going to be pretty exciting. And actually, a couple of days after that, I have Dana Larson, who's not on the list of speakers, but he's really the architect of this project. He's coming up to the university. I teach a lecture series at UVic. That week's lecture is Pot and Politics, and we actually try to do a live stream so people can watch live on the internet, and we put it up on YouTube as well. So yeah, Dana's going to be talking about how it's progressing as well. So we're really excited to have him up there.
Yeah. Also in the digest, I'm going to hold that up again, is your front page. It's always a black and white front page, and why is that?
Well, I guess the page is black and white in part because of the environmental impact of color and the cost.
Yeah.
But also because we like to have each front cover be a coloring contest. Unfortunately, yesterday was the last day of this coloring contest. But the next issue will be out next month, and you get a couple of months to put it in. And you are probably familiar with Georgia Tunes.
Yes.
She's actually got the next front cover. It's a really wonderful Halloween theme. And yeah, I'd like to get usually different artists. Actually, the front cover you just showed, and this one here with Georgia, it's a repeat artist. They've both done front covers before. And I'm getting Bongman from Toronto there to do a future front cover too, because he's a lot of fun. And yeah, so it's really great to be able to include different people in the paper and then give people stuff to do, right? A lot of people really enjoy coloring, and yeah, it's been a really fun way to get the paper going.
Now it's availability. As far as I know, it's probably more available out west where you're located versus here in Ontario. Are you looking at maybe ways down the road in order to increase its availability this way? Because what I've noticed is that each time I go into a business, shortly after I've been around and delivered, they're all gone. You know, which is a good problem to have. They're all gone, which means people are taking them. Are you looking at maybe some way of maybe coming up with a distribution at this end of the country in order to be able to make them a little bit more available?
Well, it's funny you ask, because I'm sort of changing the way it's getting distributed soon here, because I need to make the paper pay for itself. And up until now, I've just been trying to ship it out for free. And in this issue, we're actually going to send a letter to people to say, if you're a Compassion Club, we'll still give it to you for free. There's a lot of medical dispensaries we send it to, and that's important. But we're going to ask them to help pay the $20 or $25 it is to ship it out.
Right.
Or unless they advertise, if it's a store that advertises, well, then we'll send them newspapers.
Correct.
So my hope is to encourage A, more advertising, and B, to recover a lot of the distribution costs. And if I start actually, turning the corner and making money, then I'll print more. Mm-hmm. And we only print 10,000 now, which really for the whole country isn't very much. And so I'd like to print another 5,000 and print them in Ontario and have the whole 5,000 distributed in Ontario, where, you know, the bulk of the market is really, you know, it's kind of hard. We're out here in Vancouver Island.
You're right.
I'm really disconnected from what's happening out there. But,
now, you talked about, you know, the shipping costs and all that. A lot of people out there may not know that, you know, Cannabis Digest is free, right? There's no purchase cost to the customer.
No, not to the customer at all. And it's packed full of information. You know, a lot of magazines have got a lot of stuff about growers and strains and stuff, but I would like to think, you know, our paper, you know, has hands down, you know, more information in it than almost any other publication on the subject out there. And covers, again, I didn't mention hemp. I usually do a good article about hemp as well. That's really important to me to build bridges between the whole plant community. It's kind of been segregated here between medical and recreational, so I kind of try to build the camps back together a bit. But yeah, we don't get any information about growing because other magazines cover that. We're much more interested in the cultural and political changes that are happening.
And it does show that in each issue that I've read. You know, you do have the political people, you know, writing, and yeah, it's not full of some of the other stuff that you mentioned. So, which is good because everything needs to be covered. People need to know what's going on in the political realm of things, and where laws are, and the whole bit. So, okay. Does anybody have any questions on Cannabis Digest as far as the tabloid? No? Okay. Let's move on to your latest venture, which is Hempology 101. I got my little bookmarker there. It's a paper. It's a rolling paper. It's worked really good. It's in the book, but it's on the last page. That's where I am right now in reading it. I don't read a lot of books, Ted. The last book I read was actually on the same subject, and that's when I started getting involved in this, and that was Jack Harrow's book. So it was just interesting to see now I've read yours, Hempology, which is the history of uses of cannabis sativa. So do you fill us in on that? What got it going? What was the idea behind it? Anybody you want to throw in as a plug who helped you out?
Cool, thanks. Yeah, like I say, 17 years ago, I started working on the book, and you may notice that it's the 4th edition. Well, the first 3 editions I actually photocopied on hemp paper. It took me about a year to get the first one out, and I had holes punched in the sides so that I could take hemp twine and I kind of, you know, put a necklace kind of hemp binding on each one. So they were all handmade and pretty much made out of hemp. And I printed 100 copies of each of the first 3 editions. And my first book, before I started the Buyers Club, my thinking was that I was going to essentially drive my van from coast to coast, talking about hempology and selling books to pay for the gas. And when I ran out of books, I'd just go print another 100 copies and have them punched and ready so that I could make more books as I headed off to the next city. And so the Buyers Club has sort of distracted me from my dreams of touring around with my book. But in a way, it's been an awesome relationship that's really helped me learn more and mature in different ways. And so, yeah, I guess, yeah, the first 2 editions I put out relatively early. And then when I first got the store, I actually had a bookstore in the front. And it felt really odd not having my own book for sale. So I put out the 3rd edition in 2001. So it's been over 10 years. And there's a number of people that really helped get it to this point. Sarita, the graphic artist and designer of the book, really deserves a great deal of credit for making it look so presentable. She really, it was one thing to have all the writing done, but then to have it look so good. I'm very fortunate to pick the team that I did, and so yeah, it's been an epic struggle to get it out there. But now it's funny because it was 17 years of work to this point, but now the real work is getting out there and selling it and get people to
Right.
you know, promote it and believe it and follow through on it and, you know, convert over to the cannabis economy.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning of your book, you mentioned in your intro about, I guess it's about the fact that you don't put just like a little footnote or a little star underneath something and tells you to refer to such and such report in an article. You actually put that comment right in the book amongst your writing, which, you know, to me, I thought is it was very good, because myself, I wouldn't be going to look for that. Somebody else may not have access to that information, whereas you've included, you know, that paragraph that were talking about that actually brings the information right out to the person. So myself, I was glad that it was there. So I just thought I'd bring that up. And the fact that the book, while you do have some pictures in it, and that's what I'm glancing over here, it has a lot of writing in it instead of being full of just pictures. Like, I know a picture can say 1,000 words, but the you know, you've got a lot of writing in there, and it's not full of pictures. You know, it's a lot of information. So, and you use drawings as well. You mentioned you had an artist that did the drawings, and you got, you know, the drawings and stuff in there, which is nice. So. We want to do a quick review of each. I've got a question or two for each chapter within the book. If you'd like to go through that. Right off the bat, history. The only thing I can say was, wow, you went quite the ways back. Like, I think a lot of people only think about marijuana going back to about 1960, but you're into the 1500 BC. You went way back in this when it comes to history. So you want to explain a little bit about the history of cannabis way back in that time?
Well, I've become convinced that cannabis was known historically as the tree of life in a number of ancient civilizations, you know, like the Sumerians and
Just
the
a minute, Ted.
Babylonians.
Just a minute, Ted. Go ahead.
Well, I've become firmly convinced that in many ancient civilizations, the Sumerians, Babylonians, Assyrians, Egyptians, that the cannabis plant was known as the tree of life because it essentially sustained us physically and spiritually and economically. And it starts with the seed. That's partly why I have the front cover with the seed, because we've been eating cannabis seeds for millions of years. It's not just something we started to use when we came across fire. We've been eating seeds since we were dinosaurs.
Right.
And since we had not much more than the brain of a squirrel, we learned to store these seeds over the winter time. That you could essentially, you know, take a cannabis stalk and sort of hit it on the ground a few times, and a bunch of seeds would fall out that you could store over the winter time. And that those seeds would not only provide a good source of food, but that if you threw a few of them back onto the ground in the spring, that they would grow real thick and big, and all of a sudden you'd have this huge pile of seeds that in the fall you could again collect, and then you'd have this, you know, awesome food source. So I'm certain that through ice ages that were quite likely responsible for the extinction of dinosaurs, that our very small, very, you know, kind of smart ancestors started to use cannabis. And that's why the endocannabinoid system is so important to humans. And, you know, a lot of vertebrae have got, you know, these endocannabinoids, which are essentially similar to the cannabinoids that are in the cannabis plant. So if you look at the essential fatty acids and proteins that are in the seed, well, that's essentially what we are made of, right? And so you are what you eat. And so I'm certain that
Yes.
for very long periods of time, we would eat a lot of hemp seeds to survive, you know, these very rough time periods. Certainly when things were flourishing and it was a jungle. We could eat all sorts of stuff. But when things were tough, we lived off hemp seeds for millions and millions and millions of years. And then as well, we would have developed hash because in part we would have collected hemp seeds. You would have ended up with some resin on your hands. And at some point after developing fire, we would have rubbed it together and we would have ended up with this hash that we would have burned and discovered that it changes our sense of awareness. Mm-hmm. And even before that, I should back up, the next use of the plant would have probably been the stalk, where we literally would have took the cannabis stalks and just wove it together very simply for a mat on the floor of our huts. So because it would have been the strongest fiber that we could have used, and it's an antifungal, and insects and stuff would have stayed away, and it would have stayed there a lot longer. And gradually we would have developed, weaving and canvas essentially, from that process.
From that. Now, you've in the book, you're going way back. I know we know about the discovery of the tombs, 2,000, 2,700 years ago, where people were using cannabis, and within the history stuff, you're talking tribal things and areas, and then how wars were started and stuff all over the cannabis, hemp, and the whole bit. So it was for me, I knew some of the stuff through reading Jack's book, but even yours goes in, I found, even a little further into the history and the religion aspects and the wars of it. So it was quite the knowledge in order to pick up, where you don't hear people talking about that very often.
Well, I owe a lot to my friend Chris Bennett. He's written 3 books now: Marijuana, Magic, and Religion. The Green Gold, The Tree of Life, Marijuana, Magic, and Religion.
Yes, I saw those.
Bible, and Cannabis the Soma Solution. His last book, I really didn't quote it in there. But I owe a tremendous amount to Chris. He really taught me a lot about it.
Okay, now let's move on to the next chapter. It was about hemp. You write about the many uses and where it was grown. While it is grown here in Canada today under strict conditions, is there other places around the world where it's grown where maybe it's not as strict, where it's a little bit more open up?
Oh, certainly. There's some places in the world where prohibition never stopped them from growing hemp. China, for example, has been producing hemp products for thousands of years. That's where hemp paper was first made, a couple thousand years ago. And so they've also been. We got this hemp board. I don't have it here, but they make plywood out of the herds. Like the hemp, the stalk has got fiber on the outside and like a cork in the middle.
Yeah.
And so the cork can be turned into a press board and paper and stuff. So they make a press board in China out of it, and that's like the clothing I'm wearing is actually hemp, but it's made in China. And so they've really, and it's also something that the Chinese have been very good at marketing, and so the linen that is sold in stores today from China is actually hemp, but they call it linen so that people won't know what it is and they get it past the marketers. The only linen that isn't made out of hemp is Irish linen, which is made out of flax. But any other linen that comes from China is actually hemp disguised as something else. But yeah,
a different name on it. It's sort of like pharmaceutical drugs. Instead of calling it heroin, they call it Oxycontin, right?
Yeah. And in Spain and France, they grow a lot of hemp to use for cigarette papers and rolling papers.
Right.
And they also, I think that's where they grow the hemp that they use in making bills, because there's a lot of, currency. We got this plastic money stuff anyway. A lot of it's had a certain amount of hemp in it for various reasons. It's just a really good paper making product.
Now, just to flip back to the history section for a second, in the movie we just watched, plus in your book, you talk about people used to be able to pay their taxes with it?
Oh yeah, back in the 1700s and 1800s, hemp was essential for a good navy because it was used for rope and the canvas for the sails. And so there was a lot of pressure on the British to get hemp from other sources because the British had a really big navy, but they couldn't grow hemp very well. And so when they helped develop the colonies, the main reason for that was actually for essentially raw hemp that was then shipped back to Britain and manufactured. And so farmers were at one point, I think, that the king passed a decree that 10% of the land had to be in hemp cultivation, and that there were other times where it was required that hemp was part of the taxes, or that you could pay all of your taxes just in bales of hemp.
Wow. Now, being our country is celebrating the War of 1812 before we were even a country, and the British came over here and helped the native Indians in this war against the U.S. What was on those ships, like, to come over here? Like you say, the sails were made with hemp. A lot of the clothing and stuff like that was made from hemp.
Yeah, the rope was all made out of hemp as well, and I guess they used a kind of hemp glue sort of resin from the sea to help plug the holes for the ship as well.
Seal it and the whole bit.
Yeah, like sealant that used hemp oil in it as well. But the heaviest uses would certainly be all the rope and the sail cloth as well.
Do you think that
for the canvas, right? So.
Do you think while we're celebrating that here in Canada, do you think that they'll mention any of this in that in this celebration, that how important hemp was in that war?
Oh, the upper government will never do anything like that.
No, they won't do that. No. Okay, let's move on to the next chapter, the healing nature chapter. Within that, you touch on conditions that it helps, along with side effects of legal choices. Did you do this to show people that there is a choice, like sort of, because you do compare some of the drugs to cannabis for medical reasons? I guess that's sort of to help show people the difference.
Yeah, I tried to write that chapter in the most effective way that I could, and I tried to write it for people as well. Like I've tried to write the whole book for people to read that have really no experience with cannabis at all.
Yeah.
And so having, comparisons and kind of a broader approach was important to me. And so, I'm writing the whole book. I try to keep my opinion out and just kind of put in facts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's like, I have my opinions, but this is what others have said, and kind of document that as much as possible.
Right.
Because, in a lot of cases, experts have written things far better than I could have rewritten. And so, like in particular, like, that chapter also talks about some of the potential consequences of using this.
Correct. It does. Yes. You don't look at it as just cannabis has no harm. You actually include the side effects in it as well. Yep.
Yeah,
which a lot of people don't recognize, and you have to do that.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of negative consequences of cannabis use as well, and heard enough to know that it's not this wonderful drug that's going to make everybody feel better, like maybe acid is. I'm kidding. But it's
well,
something
you do touch on that, so we're going to get to that in a second. We're getting there. We're not there yet.
Jumping ahead, yeah. But it's something that I think people need to be aware of the good, the bad, and the very good. And there's lots of benefits of this plant, but there are things people should be aware of, especially, in dealing with youth. I think
Yeah.
too obvious when people are, humans, they're still developing, you shouldn't be giving them strong drugs. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, we're gonna pause for the YouTube cause, and then we'll get on to a couple more questions, and then we'll be done. Be right back. Right, we're back, and we're moving on to the next chapter, prohibition. When I got into the prohibition part, I was looking for way we look at prohibition as we know it today. But you went way back in prohibition, I thought, and you really touched on the effect that religion has in prohibition. And
Well, I think it's, yeah.
yeah. So go ahead. If you want, this is what my question is. What effect did religion have on prohibition?
I think people underestimate the impact that all religious prohibitions have had on our society here in Western society anyway. And I thought it was important to go back to the earliest prohibitions because, religiously, or the religious prohibitions really weren't even stopping people from using this plant. It was only telling them to use it at certain times and places, and then it was only for the priest to use the temple, and then eventually they couldn't even use it, and anyone using it was killed even.
Yes.
And so, a lot of times people think that, prohibition is something that evolved in the last century. Well, really, prohibitions and the persecution of people using plant medicines to heal and enlighten themselves has been going on for a very, very long time. And it's not something new. And if you understand the history of prohibition, you see the very same tactics coming up that started with the Book of Law at 600 BC when a path of lies was just put out into the public and people sucked it up. And ever since then, these prohibitionists have used the media to create a frenzy about drugs in a way that has been very harmful to not just the drug users, but society as a whole, I would suggest. Mm-hmm. And so, prohibition is nothing new. And I think also when you gain a sense of how long this battle has been between, plant users and the military complex, if you call it that, you get a sense of, what we're really up against on the one hand, but then I think also get a sense that, this kind of cultural umbrella is starting to fade, that we're actually just now getting out of the dark ages, as they were called. And so I really have a great sense of hope for humanity because these ancient prohibitions are being seen for what they are, which is really a charade for control.
Yeah, because I know when I read that section and I was reading it, I was just I was going wow inside my head and going like people were being like killed because of the fact that they didn't follow somebody else's belief, and it just didn't make right to me. So I was seeing it as religion was the spot before government. Before governments were ruling the people, religion was ruling the people, and then governments come along, and now governments are trying to turn people to think that the way that they want to be, just like the religion was.
Well, it's a back and forth battle, right?
Yeah.
People just create a government to take power away from the church and these religious zealots. And so these religious zealots just didn't give up and say, oh, now there's government, we can't impose our moral beliefs upon the population. They've just consolidated their energy and focused on taking control of the political power. So they couldn't just erase government. Believe me, most people, religious extremists, would rather have no government at all, so that they could just take full control and kill everyone that doesn't believe them. And
yeah.
So this back and forth battle between these religious powers using government to impose their moral beliefs and people struggling for their freedoms. This is a long and historical battle. This isn't something that just kind of erupted in the 60s, or you know, or where they gained control in the 20s or 30s. It's been a very long and you know, hard-fought battle, and millions of people have died on our side, not theirs. It's not like, you know, the pagans went and killed the Christians very often because the Christians did their thing. The Christians came after us. So it's like millions and millions of pagans have died in this, essentially, or had their lives taken away in room, and their houses burned, their property seized, or, you know, condemned and driven out of town, or whatever the case is. You know, it's been a very tragic circumstance, and you know, as I think it was Norm Stamper said from Leap in the United States, next to slavery, you know, prohibition is the worst set of policies that humanity has ever enacted.
To quote another member of Leap, Peter Crisp, he always talks about on Time for Hemp. The first prohibition that was out there consisted of three people: Adam and Eve and the Creator. And the Creator said, "Do not eat from that tree of life," right? And what happened? We all know he ate the apple. So if one creation can't watch two people, then how does prohibition expect to work over millions of people across the world?
That's a funny way of putting it. I haven't heard that.
Oh yeah, he says our Creator, he couldn't watch over two people, so how do they expect everything else to work together? Okay, let's jump to the next. Let's jump to the next one, the counterculture one. In there, you talk about for a while there, cannabis had lost some appeal during because of the psychedelic drugs, which brings us to the LSD. What was the effect of the psychedelic era on the cannabis movement?
Well, certainly cannabis was around in the 1950s and early 60s. It hadn't been completely erased among the, you know, jazz musicians and sailors as well. You know, people that traveled to other parts of the world where hash in particular was available. Yeah. And there's been good hash available for thousands of years. So, you know, people were still smoking that, you know, through the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And so it was around. But really what made the use of cannabis explode towards the end of the 1960s was the psychedelic community that just the way it came out of nowhere in the American scene. Ironically, you know, through you know, the U.S. military and their attempts to control people in the way they think. And so it was really this, like I say, sort of explosion in creativity and freedom and a sense of awakening, and, you know, that really brought cannabis use more to the more common people. And ironically, the Vietnam War as well was a big factor in that, because cannabis was being grown and used in Vietnam, and the soldiers went over there, and all of a sudden it was very common to not only smoke grass, but even to smoke opium, and to really you know, question the motivations of the American government in general. And so a lot of Vietnam vets came back, you know, needing to supply their heroin addiction by selling pot and having a real hate-on for the American government. And so the return of the vets from Vietnam was also instrumental in the revival of cannabis, because a lot of them even brought the tea back to Vietnam. And as you know, the song Steve Earle song, Copperhead Road, you know, just people started to make an economy out of it here in North America.
Yeah, yes, that chapter I found very interesting, because you got right into the Timothy O'Leary. You were talking about the way that they traveled around the country, and then, like you say, you went right into the Vietnam War. The movie that we just watched, it touched on the Vietnam War and the effect that it had on the cannabis culture as well. Into the next chapter. We've got two more chapters here. Cannabis today. chapter. You're talking about the politics, some of the politics in there. Um, does it seem that there are many politicians who believe that the prohibition of cannabis is wrong, but they refuse to speak out for one reason or another, whether their party may be against it, or that they fear that if they talk about cannabis, it just won't people won't vote for it?
Yeah, they're afraid of their religious right, and some of them should be, given where they live, because the religious right can be very vocal and very focused. If you say something that pisses them off, then you're a target to them, and so that fear, is quite a dominant factor. I've heard of even locally in Victoria, right, where we live in a relatively aware society, but there's a lot of pockets within Victoria, the old guard, where there's lots of money and power, and they're not at all wanting to legalize pot. They're that 1%, right?
Right.
And so, that 1% is not on board, and so, the politicians, pay a lot of attention to that, and so, the combination of those two factors makes it so that very few politicians are really willing to speak out. Unless there is a clear majority or they have some other personal life experience that makes them aware of the follies of prohibition. And so in that case, it depends on their political stripes. But there are, members of the Conservative Party that criticize the Canadian government for what they do as well. But and there's members of the Liberal Party and the NDP that are not at all supportive of legalization. So like there's, even within the parties themselves, there is an agreement on how to go. But there are more and more politicians that are questioning it, certainly here in BC and more outside of Canada, I think, than even in this country at this point, because you don't want to piss off the Conservatives if you can help it.
Yeah. As of today, the way I know it, when it comes to the political parties, it's really just the Conservatives that are out against it as far as cannabis, because the Green Party, taxation and regulation, the Liberals, we know that they're at their convention, yet policy, but yet in their convention, the delegates all agreed that taxation and regulation is the way to go. The NDP, they want to have a discussion on it, maybe another study, and the Conservatives, we know, are going to jail. So you got to hope that the next election, that something good will come of all this, because the Conservatives are
the
the
next
only
election
party.
or next generation. Like, we're friends with kids that are in the Conservative Party at the University of Victoria, and they've tried to put it on the platform to legalize pot, because from a conservative economic perspective,
Right.
The war on drugs doesn't make sense. They need to legalize it and regulate it and tax it. So, and so, but you're quite right. We need a major change in government here and a major shift in policy. The Liberals have not been impressive at all when they did have power there.
That's right.
On this matter. And NDP, it looks hopeful, but I'm not certain at all that they will make this a priority. I think our real hope is in court, and that's where I put my focus. And now that I have my book, I can likely get qualified as an expert witness in court. And really, I've never focused on politics as being the vehicle for change. Politics is a reflection of the change that's already occurred.
Got to pause for the YouTube cause. We'll be right back. All right. Okay. Because the way that things look, so there is like you mentioned a conservative. You've got a friend at that end. I know here at our last movie, we did have a member from our riding, from our conservative MP. He came. He talked to us. He asked how he could help out. I've been talking with him, and he's above board. He understands things, but yet, like you said, it's the party that is against it, and it's makes it very hard for them in order to get it out in the open and to be discussed. So, Okay, now into the last chapter, cannabis in the future. I have one question, I guess. So I'm sure we can expand on that. What can people do to help in order to make this, better for everybody?
Well, I would say the first thing people can do is to likely learn more. That even after 17 years, I'm constantly learning and exploring, because there's always new things happening, and it's a really exciting industry. I guess the second thing would be to try to attend events that cannabis activists are putting on, because a lot of people like yourself there today, put a fair amount of effort into putting events together, big or small,
Yeah.
and it means a lot to have people show up. And I would like to think that the events I put together are often some of the funnest and often free and really socially engaging events in town. So, attending events and helping promote events, even if you can't attend, is something to do. And from there, it depends on a person's skill set and their interest and their resources. It's hard to say that everybody should be doing this one thing. Aside from learning and sharing what they know, right? Like, that comes with it. Obviously, you're obliged to share when you have knowledge. But it's something that there's a lot of directions to take. I think the majority of people could probably use a lot more hemp products than they're using right now, and so switching over to environmentally friendly products is one thing. But putting your money where your mouth is and really financially supporting the cannabis entrepreneurs and stores and people that are really working this, because here in Canada we're really at the beginning of a huge industry, and if we start really putting our money where our mouth is, then they'll start developing more production facilities. They'll have more kinds of hemp products, and the prices will go down. There'll be more choices, and it's already happening year by year. There's more hemp products, more hemp businesses, and very excellent, healthy products. Skin care products, all that sort of stuff. So that would be another thing that I think the average person could do that ultimately helps legal plant, because it's really important for all sorts of reasons that hemp is brought back.
Correct. Okay. I got two more questions. One of them is, where is your book available?
Well, it's available on Amazon. It's available at we got hempology.ca. So we got a online store where we sell like this T-shirt here for Team 420, and sell organic hemp and cotton. We sell buttons and T-shirts and stickers at hempology.ca again. It's available in some stores in Toronto. I think there's 4 or 5 stores, like the Friendly Strangers got it. Toronto Hemp Company's got it. I'm going to get in trouble for forgetting places now.
Well, what about any of the vapor lounges? I know you were doing the tour of the vapor lounges. Any of them carrying it?
Yeah, I think that they're, yeah, you're right. Sorry, Vapor Central should have it. Vapor Village, I think, is another one that has it. I have a complete list. It's I don't think so, sorry. Yeah, I think the complete list of the stores is either at hempology.ca, if you go into the hempology, go into the forums, I guess, in the hempology activities.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Like you said, it's available at hempology.ca as well, right?
Yeah.
You got a Facebook page for it as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a Facebook page. You can go there and find the list of the stores it's available in.
Yeah. Last question to you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I would. In November, we're going on the next kind of big phase of our book tour, which is taking us all the way to Halifax. Yeah. And I've mentioned the club a little bit, but I teach a free lecture series at the University of Victoria. Hempology 101 is the largest student club on campus there.
So you're in a Canadian university teaching a hemp class?
It's a free non-credit lecture, so you don't sign up and pay for it. There's no tests or anything. we actually broadcast live and put it up on YouTube as well. And they're hour-long lectures this year. And so, and next week I'm doing a lecture on the Marijuana Tax Act, so like a full hour on that. But yeah, so we're starting to expand hempology to other universities. We started a few years ago. We have clubs now at UBC, VIU in Nanaimo on the island, and now I have one at Mount Allison University in New Brunswick. And now that I have the textbook, we're really expanding into other universities very, very fast right now. And the main, I guess, project we're starting off with is a cannabis convention. I've held 13 at UVic, where it's pretty simple. We just book a room, get a bunch of speakers, make a poster, and invite people to come listen for the afternoon. And usually it's from like 1 to 4, and then we have a 4:20 after. And yeah, so we're going to have a cannabis convention in November at Dalhousie.
Dalhousie?
Yeah, in New Brunswick. Or sorry, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have Mount Allison in New Brunswick. And then we're going to have one at Carleton University in Ottawa. And then we're going to come and have one at the University of Toronto.
Fantastic.
And just lining up the speakers for these events. But we hope to leave behind hempology clubs that will have a number of events where they can have movie nights and speaking events and, do other fun things. We're here. One of the things we're starting to do is arrange kind of meet and greet nights where, like in Vancouver, we're going to have all the UBC students come down to the Vapor Lounge, and we're going to have an evening in the Vapor Lounge where the students can hang out with Jody Emery and Gaynell Larson and people working in the cannabis industry in Vancouver, and give Randy Kane, give kind of the activists and students a chance to get to know each other and hang out. And so we're going to be doing that at, we won't be doing that on our tour very much. We're just going to be getting the conventions going. But we created a really good model for a student club. We're the largest and most popular club at the University of Victoria. And we think we should be on every campus in North America and the world. And, getting the students engaged in this and connecting, researchers, professors, students, activists, and everybody together on the more academic sort of front. So we're really excited to be
getting professors and teachers on board is a good thing. Very good thing. Does anybody have any questions on Ted's book? No. You're commenting. Good book. While we were talking, they were passing it around and taking a look at it. So that everybody could see for themselves what was all in your book there. Well, Ted, at this moment, I'd like to say thank you for taking your time to educate everybody on the theme of history of cannabis. And
thank you.
And I'd also like to thank Gerhard and the staff here at the Grindhouse in Campbellford for being present and everybody being present today. And for the people on YouTube, thank you for being people advocating cannabis education. So until next time, thank you, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Al.